So I want to wrap up a few points on the discussion of objective and subjective, or objective and relative ethics. Um, do revisit the ideas of the difference between custom and law and morals. Somebody had brought up, like, driving, what side of the road you drive on, and how, in one country you drive on the left hand side, on another country you drive on the right hand side, and so if you did the one in the other country, you'd be wrong. The issue is, you may be wrong without being immoral, and you may be immoral and be wrong at the same time. What I mean by that, laws about what side of the road to drive on are rooted in customs, local customs, regional customs, national customs, are turned into laws. The points of those customs about driving are to protect life, to not endanger human life needlessly or recklessly or purposely. So the moral point is that you don't endanger another person. So since the moral is I shouldn't endanger someone through neglect or on purpose with my vehicle, then I need to know what the law is where I'm driving and follow that law. And so that's the difference between the kind of the morals and the laws, and it shows you how a law can be based in custom, and the law itself can be somewhat relative to where you are, while the moral stays the same. Whether I'm driving in England or America, I shouldn't endanger other people's lives by the way I drive. So if I'm driving in America, I should drive on the right-hand side of the road, and that's actually the law. If I'm driving in England, I should drive on the left-hand side of the road, and that's the law. But it doesn't make it one of them moral and another one not. They're both set up to fulfill the same moral principle of not endangering life through driving. Okay, so another key point, kind of wrap up point to make sure it's clear. Again, if you think that any rule is always true for every culture, and that if a culture says it's not, for instance, the Nazis say it's okay to murder all the Jews and take all their stuff, and we want to say, no, that's just wrong. It doesn't matter if 90% of the people in the country say it, it's simply wrong. Even if you have room for cultural differences and customary differences on many things, to say that no one should murder innocent people and take all their stuff just because of their ethnicity, religion, whatever, then there are objective morals. To say they're objective morals doesn't mean we don't have to do the kind of challenging work of deciding how they apply to situations. Objective morals are situational in a sense, because what you're saying is there's this thing that we value, and because we value this thing, because this is true, we have to determine how to act in relation to this. So with the driving again, right? Because we see it true that we shouldn't endanger other people's lives, we value life, we shouldn't endanger people's lives, then we have rules and laws on how to drive, where to drive, what side of the road to drive on, how fast to go when we're in whatever area. In a neighborhood, you don't drive 70 miles an hour. Doesn't mean that driving 70 miles an hour is necessarily immoral, because there is a speed limit of 70 on certain interstates where it's relatively safe to do so. But it's not safe through my neighborhood, right? There are kids playing, people riding bikes, dogs. It's immoral to drive 70 miles an hour through 35 mile an hour zone because it endangers life, not because there's some moral principle about the speed 70 miles an hour. So it's an objective ethic that determines the relative laws. I hope that's making sense. It's an objective truth, an objective moral that shapes the way we enact customs and laws to fulfill those core realities. So we can be objective in our ethics, and at the same time recognize circumstances and situations that shape how we follow those morals. Um, you know, if I have plenty of food and I see someone who's starving to death, then I should probably do something to help that person. But does that make me obligated to save the whole world? No, it doesn't, because I'm not capable of that. I don't have that much money. I don't have that much food. I don't even know the whole world, right? So that I should treat others well. Even the kind of core moral law for many systems, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I can't feed every starving person. I would starve my own family, which is immoral. To even try to do that would require me to starve my own family. I'm not, that's immoral, right? So the moral that I should help others has limitations. That doesn't make it relative. It simply means that I'm a limited being with limited abilities. It simply means that there are reasons and purposes. There's an underlying moral reality that I have to fulfill, that I have to hold to. And that moral reality requires me to think, right? Socrates, the unexamined life is not worth living. The fact that you have to think about morals doesn't make them relative or subjective. It simply means that there are standards that are true, things that are right and good, that we want to stay in line with. And so to do that in a given situation, we may have to think through, how do we do that, right? Anybody who's several people have talked about, basing their ethics on the Bible. A lot of people said, if everybody just followed the 10 Commandments, we'd all be better off. Well, true. Okay, yeah. But what do I do about, say, drug laws? What do I do about a person who's, that's really just they've worked hard, if they get really sick, they lose all their money trying to pay for doctors, they start to lose their house, and now they're starving. Do I just let them die? I mean, if I don't murder, don't commit adultery, and I don't steal their stuff, how do we see, what are those morals pointing towards? What are those core laws pointing towards, and how do I apply them to that individual situation? How do I apply them in connection to those lives of the person who's, completely down on their luck and desperately in need? Well, I mean, the Bible itself offers other rules, other standards, other truths, other ideals. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. There again, we have to make judgment calls. We have to look at the whole situation. I can't help every starving person in the world personally. What can I do? So I can do good for my immediate neighbors. I can do good in certain situations. There again, to say I can do good requires that there be something that is objectively good and true. If there's no objectively good and true, I can't really do good. So I hope this is making some sense of it. That there are situational instances where you have to make judgment calls. It does not mean that all ethics are relative. It simply means that to reach the objective, to understand the objective truth of what I'm doing that, holding to that moral for, then I have to think through and apply and understand the situation I'm in.